In our Jewish tradition, we know the importance of showing up and being present for people in their time of need. Most visibly, we do this in the aftermath of a death, with the expectation of attending the funeral or visiting the home when we could, for Shiva, to offer comfort and condolences. There is an understanding that in the face of sadness or suffering, we let people know that we are there for them and that we care. There are many reasons why we do this. Because it's the Jewish thing to do, because it's the kind thing to do, or simply because it's the right thing to do. The important thing is that we do it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who, when a little further removed from the period of mourning, might have commented to my partner, "You know, it's strange, we never heard from that person or this person. They never reached out." In the moment we are surrounded, but after the fact, we sometimes come to recognize that certain people were absent. They didn't reach out in the way that we would have expected. They failed to be there for us in our time of need. This can be a difficult realization and frequently can lead to fractures, if not total breaks, in a friendship or relationship. We want people to be there for us in the good times, but we also need people to be there for us in the bad times and when it's difficult. And what is true for us as individuals is also true for us as a community. In the last few weeks, since fighting began between Israelis and Palestinians, there has been a significant increase in anti-Semitism and attacks on the Jewish community. These attacks began online and through various social media platforms. In just 1 week in May, there were 17,000 tweets that used variations of the phrase, "Hitler was right." It is clear that this is unacceptable. It is clear that this is anti-Semitic. And it is clear that people will hide behind social media profiles to say things that they would never utter in real life. Or would they? Unfortunately, what began online quickly spread to the real world, so that the number of anti-Semitic incidents in America doubled from May 2020 to May 2021. There was a daylight brawl in New York City's Times Square. Outdoor diners were physically attacked in Los Angeles, and there were incidents of anti-Jewish vandalism at synagogues. Closer to home, a swastika was found in a classroom at the Lincoln Sudbury High School and in the bathroom of the Newton South High School. These are just a few of the examples. There were, unfortunately, countless others. Many other expressions of anti-Semitism were hidden in the midst of anti-Israel or pro-Palestinian propaganda, protests, and actions. Here in America and elsewhere, I know that Jews have unfortunately been having conversations about whether we need to hide our Magen Davids, the Star of Davids we wear around our necks, if we need to replace our kippah with a baseball cap, or if we need to simply hide our Jewish identity outside. An Israeli friend of mine living in New York shared with me that she would normally make calls to family in Israel while walking the streets of the city. But she stopped doing this in case people would recognize her speaking Hebrew and respond. I'm unfortunately not particularly surprised that the situation in Israel led to an increase in anti-Semitism. This has become a common chain of events. I'm also not surprised by many of the people who have lined up to make ignorant and hateful comments against the Jewish community. It's many of the same objectionable people and organizations as usual. But I am surprised in terms of a response. No one has reached out to me either as an individual or the rabbi of a synagogue. There have been no expressions of support and solidarity in the face of these attacks, and I'm left wondering what I should read into the deafening silence that surrounds us. I'm grateful that President Biden issued a statement on the rise of anti-Semitic attacks in which he unequivocally condemned what has been happening and declared that these attacks are despicable, unconscionable, un-American, and they must stop. But I am saddened that he appears to be one of few non-Jewish voices speaking out against these attacks. I am concerned about the lack of concern for the Jewish community, and I'm trying to understand what the silence means. In trying to be understanding, perhaps these anti-Semitic attacks aren't making the news outside of the Jewish community in the same way as they are being covered within the community. Maybe people simply don't know what is happening around them. In honesty, I don't think that's the reason. So my second thought is that in the aftermath of the recent fighting between Israelis and Palestinians, people are reluctant to speak out about the current spate of anti-Semitism because they are conflating the two issues. If that is the case, then it is an unacceptable response that reveals a terrible blind spot when it comes to the need for everyone to be involved and engaged with the fight against anti-Semitism, just as they would be against any other form of hate. A powerful letter has been shared on social media written by Boaz Munro, the heading of which states, "Dear American progressives, your Jewish friends are terrified by your silence." It is an unfortunate must-read. He explicitly states that he does not want to talk about Israel and Palestine, and so he focuses solely and exclusively on the recent anti-Semitic incidents here in America. Writing about these attacks, he suggests, though no comparison is perfect, these attacks are similar to the recent attacks on Asian Americans in that they're targeted against people of an identifiable group and motivated by foreign events. Progressives claim to stand against all forms of bigotry, but when it comes to attacks on American Jews, Jews uniquely, you're not speaking up. Almost all of you are silent. To add to this, I'm currently reading a book by the British Jewish comedian David Baddiel entitled Jews Don't Count. And while his area of focus is on the British experience, the thesis statement takes it beyond Israel and suggests that the progressive left is confused by anti-Semitism. As he writes, a sacred circle is drawn around those whom the progressive modern left are prepared to go into battle for, and it seems as if the Jews aren't in it. Politically, David Baddiel is part of the progressive left, and he challenges right-wing anti-Semitism as well. But the focus of his book is the blind spot that fails to see anti-Semitism is comparable with racism, sexism, disableism, Islamophobia, transphobia, or any other example of prejudice and hate. Our status in society seems to be confusing, and so when we are attacked, it's not clear who will come to our defense as an ally. In this moment of loneliness, isolation, and fear, we have to decide how we want to respond. We can think back to our biblical ancestors and the contrasting way in which Moses and Aaron led the Israelites throughout our years in the wilderness. As my friend and colleague Rabbi Josh Brown suggests, often as we read the stories of challenge and struggle, the response of Aaron is silence. He meets his own personal suffering with silence. He is silent when his sister speaks to him and when she is afflicted, and he meets challenges that face him with silence. On the one hand, Aaron is that person who does not speak. We can all be Aarons, burying our heads in the sand, keeping silent, and failing to share the pain that we are feeling. Or we could be like Moses. Despite his initial challenges with speech, he is willing to raise his voice and speak whenever it is necessary. He speaks out against problematic elements in the Israelite community, as in this week's Torah portion when a minority led by Korach mount a rebellion against his leadership. He offers words of comfort and healing when his sister Miriam is afflicted, praying for her recovery, while Aaron is silent. And he uses his words to ask for help, unafraid to stand before God and admit that he can't do it alone, that he needs support, and that he is looking for comfort. Perhaps it shouldn't be necessary. We might have hoped that the voices of support and solidarity would appear automatically and immediately. I will add, just as we have been there instantly for so many others when they have been the ones who are attacked. But now is not the time for keeping a score. Now is the time for us to speak up and speak out. We need to publicly share that we are hurting. We need to draw attention to the anti-Semitic attacks that are taking place, And we need to reach out to our friends and allies to ask them to speak. On Sunday in Metro West's Daily News, I will have a piece published that draws attention to the recent rise in anti-Semitism and states publicly, it cannot just be the Jewish community condemning these attacks. It is vitally important that people from across the political, religious, and social spectrum come out vocally to condemn the recent rise in anti-Semitism, just as we have done whenever a community is targeted with words and acts of hate. This is my way of reaching out. But each one of us has the power to reach out, to call someone or to post on social media, alerting others to rising anti-Semitism and asking people to stand with us. In the aftermath of the Tree of Life shooting in 2018, in the face of sadness and fear, our American Jewish community was strengthened and comforted by so many people who reached out to us individually, collectively, and communally. That week, we held a service in this sanctuary with several hundred people from a variety of backgrounds, religious traditions, and groups, all of them coming together to offer us solidarity and support. That is America at her best. That is the way it could be, a united, diverse community coming together to oppose anti-Semitism and hate, because an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. In the aftermath of a bereavement, when a friend doesn't show up, we can let it fester. We can try to ignore it and attempt to move past it. But we know that the best way to recover from that situation is through a conversation. There is a need to talk, to share the hurt, to learn from it, and to behave differently the next time. We have encountered errands around us, but we need to be like Moses, to speak out, to ask for help, and to shine the light on what we are currently experiencing. Shabbat Shalom.